English got it. Big screen, where the big screen? Hmm? Oh. Oh. Huh. Okay, maybe you can move there, maybe. Okay, so this presentation about the Lumbini, birthplace of the Lumbini. So you may know, and also lots of people have a misunderstandings, like people was announcing Buddha was born in India for a long period of time. So they discovered that it's about 50 years before. They found the Asok pillars in the Lumbini, and since from there, Buddha was the part of the Nepali. So that's why it's been for 1,000 years, but it's hidden because in Nepal we don't have a Buddhist country, so that's not happening. Okay, so Shreya Shrestha is going to be presenting this Lumbini. Glory to you.
Continue to share.
What you want? I can just give you. This was
So,
first.
continue to share.
How I can? Just I need your help here. You get away this one. How you get?
You don't want the next slide?
No, I don't want that
to
to
whole
come
thing.
in the continue the share. It's not here. It's just on the screen.
Is that?
Yeah, you can see that.
Oh, it's
yeah.
just.
Yeah, that one.
Huh? Where is it? Continue share. Wow.
Is this? Can you get to the cursor on this? It's just hard. Go around the edge.
It's computer technology.
This should be good.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to drive or you want me to? Yeah, I can. Yep.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Alright, just let me know.
Thank you everyone for joining us today in this auspicious event. I thought, am I audible to everyone?
Yeah.
So today I'm going to be presenting on Lumbini, the birthplace of Gautam Buddha, in the spirit of Buddha Jayanti. Let me just start with the audience first. How many of you have visited Lumbini? Please raise your hand. Okay, we have quite a few people who have the opportunity to visit Lumbini. So there is like Prajwal has already said, there is a misconception that Buddha was born in India, but in actually it's Buddha was actually born in Nepal, and his birthplace is in Lumbini. And I'm going to be presenting you with all the evidence and facts. And my goal of today's presentation is to debunk the myth, common myth amongst everyone. Let's get started. I'm going to take you to the history. So this is the time when Siddhartha Gautam was said to be born, and it's 623 BC. So that means this event took place about 2,600 years ago from today. So when Buddha was born in the Eastern context, in the parallel, if you look at the Western context, you can see that it was the time when Assyria was in the Neo-Assyrian Empire was collapsing. Babylon was growing into Neo-Babylonian era, and Egypt, which is the largest and the most ancient known civilization, was stable and aging, and it was facing 26th dynasty at that time. Similarly, Greece was in what is known as the Archaic period of Greece. So cities like Athens, Sparta were just forming identities, while Rome was just a small kingdom. So it was during that time in the parallel, in the Eastern world, this was happening when Buddha was born. Can you give me the next slide? So here I have a map that shows what that period might have looked like. So in the eastern parts of the world, it was not exactly politically divided as Nepal and India like it is today. It had different small kingdoms, and amongst the many kingdoms, there was like two specific kingdom. One is in today's world, it's Kapil Vastu, uh, which is a district in Nepal, and Devdaha is one of the municipalities in Nepal. So these were like two different kingdoms, and as you can see, the one marked in circle, the red circle, that is Lumbini. So Lumbini was the place that was right in between Kapil Vastu and Devdaha. So the Kapil Vastu was a city, and the kingdom was called Shakya Kingdom. There was a king of the Shakya clan, and his name was Sudodhan. He was married to the princess of another kingdom, Kolia Kingdom, and the capital of that kingdom was Devdaha. And the princess of Kolia clan was also the daughter of Suprabuddha. Her name was Maya Devi. So these two people are known to be the birth parents of Lord Buddha. Next slide. So the story starts, we all know this fable. The story starts with the queen dreaming, having this auspicious dream right before the birth of Buddha, where she sees that in her dream a white elephant with six tusks enters her womb when she's sleeping, and she experiences no pain but only bliss. And right after that, Buddha was born, and then the queen Maya Devi was pregnant with the prince, and during her term of pregnancy, she lived with the king. But according to a popular Sakya ritual or Sakya culture, the bride has to leave to her maternal place to give birth to her kid. So that same culture is still prevalent in most of our Sakya community. So Maya Devi leaves for Devdaha, which is her maternal place. She was accompanied by a large entourage of elephants and soldiers with her servants and everyone, and she was on the route to go to Devdaha. And referring to my previous slide, since Kapil Vastu to Devdaha, on the way, there is the garden Lumbini. So Maya Devi decides to stop there to move around in the Lumbini. Can you do the second slide? So now Lumbini is one of the most popular blissful garden in that ancient time. So there is a Chinese traveler who mentions that he accounts that Lumbini Garden is a quiet, flower-filled grove with with a seen and decayed ancient tree marks,
Bright and clear water.
bright and clear water covered with flowers. So the Chinese travelers account Lumbini Garden to be some kind of a serene garden landscape with a serene pond, which was one of the key aspects of that garden, and it was frequently traveled by people during those ancient times. So the queen Maya Devi, she decides to visit that garden, and it is during that time when she goes into labor. So now she tries to pick. She is in search of a perfect tree to give birth, and she finally finds the tree she likes, and then so she takes a bath in the holy pond, which is known as Pushkarini, and after that she walks about 24 steps north towards and approaches a sal tree. So she hangs on to one of the branches of that tree, and Gautam Buddha is born through her armpits, which is very unnatural, but that's a part of the fable. And Gautam Buddha immediately, the newborn, he starts walking 28 symbolic steps, each 7 steps in 4 different directions, known as Saptapada. So this has a symbolic meaning. So that's the fable of Gautam Buddha. So let's go back. So after Buddha was born, and then he lives his life, he gets gets his enlightenment through Bodh Gaya, and then he lives for about 80 years. And during that time, Buddhism started spreading all over Asia. And just to mark an important history, so during this time, if you look at this map I have here, you can see the red one is known as Uttarapath and the green one is known as Dakshinapath. So Uttarapath and Dakshinapath are the very famous, well-known trade route from India to Tibet or China. So, and if you look at the eastern part of the Uttarapath, you can see there is Kapilvastu, Shravasti mentioned at the top end. So it is also considered that Lumbini was very eminent in those early days because it covered the eastern section of the northern trade. So travelers would pass through that trade, and so the Lumbini garden was a very popular destination visited by many Chinese travelers. So there have been many accounts by these travelers. One of them is Seng Sai. So he's the first visitor to visit Lumbini, and in his account diaries he mentions about the Ashok tree where the Buddha was said to be born. And then there's like other visitor Fa Hin. So he also accounts that there was Emperor Ashok who covered the spot where Buddha was born with a stone, and also which is in the 20 steps north to the pond. So just a reminder how prominent this thing was getting even after the death of Buddha. So eventually Buddhism started spreading all over India. Can we move on to the next slide? So this is again like 179 years after the death of Buddha. This is what the political map of Indian continent looked like. So there were different kingdoms, and different kingdoms were coming into power. But one such kingdom, the Magad, which is shown in green, so that Magad Rajya was getting into power. So this is around the time when Alexander Great was conquering the entire other part of the world, and there was a Magad king whose name was Chandragupta Maurya. So his mentor was the famous Chanakya. So Chandragupta Maurya had that vision of unifying the entire kingdom in India, and he was the person who saw the vision of the whole entire Bharat or India at that time. And his grandson, who is popularly known as Emperor Ashok, was the one who continued to walk in the footsteps of his grandfather and started unifying all of these kingdoms into one. Move on to the next one. So the Emperor Ashok was from Mauryan dynasty. It is believed that Ashok was born on 304 BCE, so that was around 2,329 years ago. And Emperor Ashok was popularly known as a bloodthirsty tyrant, especially famous by the Kalinga War. So he was a very cruel leader, and he killed many lives during the Kalinga War in order to unify the whole Indian subcontinent. So after the war, he started feeling very guilt. Even if he was the emperor, the big emperor was very famous in the eastern region, he did not feel peace within himself. And he eventually he turned to Buddhism, he surrendered himself to Buddhism, and he became a conqueror who became one of the history's greatest advocate for peace. So once he started adopting Buddhism, he asked his teacher when he was learning about Buddhism, and his teacher tells him about the story when Buddha was in his deathbed, and he tells Ananda, he's one of Buddha's famous disciple. So Ananda asks Buddha, how are we going to remember you after you pass away? So Ananda says, people can pay homage to 4 different specific pilgrimage areas, one being Lumbini, the birthplace of Buddha; Bodh Gaya, the place of where he got his enlightenment; Sarnath, where he gave his first sermon; Kushinagar, where he left his heavenly abode. So by that time, Lumbini had become, it was a popular practice amongst the Buddhists to begin their pilgrimage starting from Lumbini and going to all these 4 different sites. So this was right at the center, right at the beginning of the pre-Christian era. So Lumbini was becoming a popular destination like that. So Emperor Ashok also decides to pay homage to these sites. And this map is a reflection, it's a current map. So during his time, King Ashok decides to go to these places and establish a stupa or stamba. Stamba is basically a pillar that, it's like a marking pillar that marks that Emperor Ashok was in that place, and he kind of established Buddhism and peace in those areas. So it is accounted that Ashok had established about 40 different pillars in all parts of India, but among those only 20 pillars were revived. So eventually Emperor Ashok also makes a visit to Lumbini in 294 BC, and during his visit he was in Lumbini with his teacher Upagupta. So there Upagupta shows Emperor Ashok the exact place where Buddha was born, which was about 24 steps north from the pond, the Pushkarini pond. And the emperor put a stone to exactly mark the place of Buddha's birth. So in the picture you can see that is what the marker stone, popularly known marker stone, looks like. And it was found during the course of excavation in the year 1996, and later incased in the form, as you can see. It's in the Maya Devi temple. Next slide. The most important evidence that states that Buddha was actually born in Lumbini in Nepal is through this pillar. So Ashok was, during his time when he was erecting these pillars in different areas, it so happened that he also erected one of the stones in Lumbini, and the stone was found in this kind of situation without the capital, only the base was present. But on my right, if you can see, the pillar had inscriptions in Pali language. So the inscriptionists tried to decipher these languages into English, and I've just translated it here on the screen. So it says King Piyadasi. So Piyadasi is another name given to Ashok, the beloved of Devas. In the 20th year of the coronation himself made a royal visit. Buddha Shakyamuni having been born here, a stone railing was built and a stone pillar erected. The Bhagwan having been born here, Lumbini village was tax reduced and entitled to the eighth part only. So because of this inscription there, it was a clear marked evidence that Buddha was born in these specific locations. Similarly, there are other pillars in the proximity, periphery of that of Lumbini area, that is known as Goti Hawa and Nilgi Hawa. So Nilgi Hawa is the pillar that's collapsed, but it still has some inscription in the same Pali language. Goti Hawa is in a more dilapidated condition. It does not have any inscription, but these were also considered the pillars that Ashok had erected. So, is there a way you can move a little bit here? So this is a slide that talks about, so since Buddha was born there, and all the during the course of time, as Buddhism started spreading, there were interference from other nationality, other cultures, and other religions, and it was starting to fade away. And this historical landmark was starting to get erased from the world. So it was just discovered much later in Nepal. So eventually, there came a time when Lumbini was believed to fall in the Indian territory. But there was this major Jas Karna Singh of Balampur in India. So he was in Shravasti, and he wrote a newspaper in the year 1893 AD. So he mentions the presence of an Ashokan pillar in Nepali Tarai. So that was the first introduction. And once this was introduced, so there was a Rana. It was during the Rana period in Nepal. So Khadga Samsher was assigned to oversee what this was about, and he started clearing the places near Lumbini, and he finally found the Lumbini pillar in 19th century. But still, they didn't know what that pillar exactly meant at that time. And then there was a team of Archaeological Survey of India who were trying to mark these historical landmarks and record in Ashokan dynasty. So during that time, a German archaeologist, Mr. Fourier, was assigned, and he makes a study of this pillar, and he connects it to be belonging to Ashoka dynasty at that time. And then another archaeologist whose name was P.C. Mukherjee, so he comes to Nepal in 1899, and then he goes to the site, excavates it properly, because Khadga Samsher was not an archaeologist. He just found it, but he didn't know what to make of it. But P.C. Mukherjee was the person who went there, and he had the expertise to identify what that was and where it belonged to. So it was again during the General Keshar Samsher Rana of Nepal. He continued excavation work in Lumbini from 1933 to 1939, and eventually the Department of Archaeology in Nepal came into scene only in the year 1970 under the Ancient Monument Preservation Act. So that's how Lumbini was again rediscovered and came into the public eye. So this is just a small map and picture of what you can see when you go to that location. So the water body you see there, that is the Pushkarini River, and the white temple you can see is popularly known as the Maya Devi temple, and this is inside the temple where you can find the marker stone of Buddha. Around the temple, you can see there are like different monasteries, and then there are like small sections titled as S23, S24. So these are basically stupas, different kinds of stupas. So you can find Sharirik stupas, which includes Buddha's remains, and then Bodhi stupas, that basically includes some of the stuff that the people in monastery used. Dhamma stupas has literature and educational piece inside them. Paribhokik stupas and Udeshika stupas are again different kinds of stupas that are present there. The monasteries and vihars, that is the center for Buddhist learning and teachings and rituals, and it's in a very remain state. Can you go to the next slide? So this is the picture of what that remain looks like currently. I visited this location when I was around 13, and I had no clue what this meant. I didn't know what these were, but these are just the pillars and foundations of like a plan, architectural plan of what those monasteries look like. They had portrait systems. They had these stupas at the middle, and it just represents what those dwelling units looked like at that ancient time. So later, during the time of King Mahendra, So the King Mahendra meets with the Secretary General of United Nations, UTAN. So they meet and they come with a conclusion to prepare a proper master plan and create a new development in Lumbini. So they were the ones who helped mobilize this global support and created an international committee under the UN to plan and fund the site's development. That happened in 1967. So at the 1978 World Fellowship of Buddhist Conference in Nepal, in Japan, an international consensus was reached because Buddhism was again very popular in Japan as well. So all the Buddhist people, they wanted to come together and develop Lumbini, and this led to UN-sponsored commissioning of a very famous master architect, Japanese architect. His name is Kenzo Tange. So he was the one who designed this master plan. So just to give you a brief idea of what this master plan looks like. So the whole Lumbini is divided into 3 different sections. The first one is the sacred garden. That's where we have the Maya Devi temple and all the remains. And Kenzo Tange wanted to conserve that place as a sacred garden as is. The middle portion was the monastic zone. It has monasteries developed from all over the world, Japan, German, and there are like beautiful monuments in the monastic zone. And then we have the third piece, which is known as the new Lumbini village. So that part is supposed to include village life to accommodate the visitors in Maya Devi temple, and that's how it was developed, with a strong axis and central periphery surrounding the Maya Devi temple to reflect the circle of life and death principles of Buddhism. So that was the basic idea of this master plan. And this is what it looks like from an aerial point of view. And I hope after this presentation, everyone present here understands why and what are the evidence that Buddha was actually born in Nepal. Thank you.
Thank you, Shreya. It was really, really amazing to understand the deeper, with the gradually building that is in that area. So thank you, all the details, even hitting that at every date and timings with that, development started. And you were good at people. So thank you, Shreya. That's just great. Great. Okay.
So how much time do you spend to get all this information?
Well, I did a bachelor's in architecture. So I have a lot of